All right, so I'm sitting in my car here and I'm thinking about the Superman controversy surrounding its box office. Now, if you go online and you have the unfortunate pleasure to see a certain side of the internet that only talks about movie box office, which, happens to be me. I only see this side of the internet. Most people don't see this side of the internet. And just people just talking about box office like they have an investment, like they actually are getting money out of it, which they're not. But it's funny, everybody wants to talk about box office, and this is the measurement of a film's success or not. And in some ways, that is correct. If a film doesn't make any money at the box office, then it's a flop, and they won't make more movies of that kind, and studios will start to make other different types of films until they hit something that makes money. That's how it works. But in Superman's case, everybody had this expectation going into Superman's theatrical run, thinking it's going to make $1 billion. And even I was kind of getting suckered into that hype. But my initial guesstimation for this film was it was going to make around like 600 to 700 million. That was like my hope that the what the film was going to do, and it's kind of looking like that's going to happen. Now, the big controversy with this movie is that it had a huge opening in the United States domestically. Made a pretty solid number, I think $125 million domestically. That's a really solid number for a comic book movie opening in the United States. But the problem is, internationally, around the world, it only made like 95 million its opening weekend, which is kind of strange for a big blockbuster, Hollywood blockbuster. Usually worldwide, these things do better, but for some reason, the worldwide audience is not caring so much about superhero films right now. They're more obsessed with the dinosaur films. That's the climate right now. And I think another reason why Superman might not be doing good overseas probably has a lot to do with the Orange Man in the office right now. A lot of the world hates America, especially Europe and China. A lot of these countries really hate America right now, and they probably don't want to be going to a superhero film starring a greatest American hero of all time, Superman. So that's probably rubbing them the wrong way. Even though James Gunn is kind of like putting political things in his movies that shows that Superman really isn't an agent for America. He's a hero for the world. I mean, that's kind of what the new Superman movie is showing Superman as. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to talk about the numbers. And so far, what we know about the Superman movie is that it costs $225 million to make. That was its budget. That's not including the marketing. And the marketing is looking like around 100 million. Nobody knows the exact numbers. The only people that know the exact numbers are studio heads and stuff like that, and they don't release exact numbers until they know what the final box office total is going to be, and then they could kind of spin narratives one way or the other. But I'm believing the $225 million budget for the film because the casting for the film, the highest paid actor on the film was Nicholas Hoult, and he got $2 million. Everybody else got less than him, so they saved a lot of money on the casting. The highest paid person was probably James Gunn. He recently said that he got paid $15 million to be the director. So there's like your cast and crew budget, really. Not extraordinarily high. And yeah, there's a lot of special effects in the movie, but no more so than Man of Steel or any other, big blockbuster. And Man of Steel had a budget roughly the same, 225 million. So I'm believing that number. It sounds right. That always was my guess of what the budget of the film was. It was around $200 million for this film. It always looked like that anyway. And a movie, in order to be profitable, has to make 2.5 times what its budget was in its theatrical run. 225 million times 2.5, and you're around $565 million, which Warner Brothers also came out and said that their goal and hope is that Superman makes over 500 million. So we're in this same range, these same ballpark numbers that they're looking at. And obviously, if Superman does less than 500 million, that's a really bad sign for the studio, and they might be tempted to not go forward anymore with what James Gunn's doing with the DC universe. And that's why they put the threshold there, because once you get past 500 million, now you're getting into the range where you're about to start making profit on the movie. And the second they cross the threshold that they start making profit on the movie, then all of a sudden that movie is making profit for the rest of its life. You know what I'm saying? For as many years as they sell the movie, past theaters, sell the physical copies, sell the digital copies, sell it to other streaming services, this kind of lifespan the movie will have, it's all profit for the studio at that point. The theatrical run is just to get the money back that they spent to invest in the movie. And sometimes you hit a home run. Sometimes you get $1 billion, $2 billion. And you would think, judging by how many views the first trailer of this Superman movie got, you would have got over 1 billion easily. But, it was a packed July. Jurassic Park's taking a lot of numbers. International markets aren't doing well. I think they could have predicted that the international markets weren't going to be as strong. And it's not looking very strong for movies like Fantastic Four either. It's interesting because they came out with a news article saying that Fantastic Four's pre-sale tickets are 20% lower than Superman. So they're projecting Fantastic Four is going to have a lower opening than what Superman did, which kind of bodes well for Superman because now when Fantastic Four comes out, it's not going to straight up kill Superman. Superman will still be in theaters and it'll still be making money. And people that, can't get tickets for Fantastic Four, they'll go see Superman that weekend, and they'll wait till the next weekend to see Fantastic Four. So, Superman's going to play in theaters for a solid, 2 months here. I would say a solid 2 months. And if it does play in theaters that long, getting over $600 million is not going to be a problem. Like, I feel like it will cross that threshold easily. And it's funny, out of the big three movies that came out in July, Jurassic Park, Superman, Fantastic Four, it's looking like Jurassic Park's going to be the big winner. It's going to make over 800 million. Fantastic Four's probably not going to reach that. Superman's probably not going to reach that. So it's funny that the dinosaurs is what the whole world wants to watch right now. So you're definitely getting more dinosaur movies. So that's kind of the range I'm expecting Superman to land, around the 600 million mark when everything's said and done with theaters, which would be a success, a financial success. It would not be a flop. Warner Brothers would be happy with that and they would move forward. And a lot of people would say, if it doesn't make more than what Man of Steel did, then how can you justify it? Well, you can justify it easily because this James Gunn Superman film has way higher critical scores, way high audience scores. Most people coming out of the movie, like 90% of the people coming out of the movie are liking it and are excited to see what's next. Like the Supergirl film, they're interested to see what the next film is. And that was the goal of this James Gunn Superman film, was to get audiences interested in DC movies again. Because after the string of bad DC movies that came out, they had to take a year off of putting out DC movies, and then you could put out Superman. We all remember that. They have to regain the audience trust again, that they can make good movies. Which, it's Warner Brothers. They're really good at making movies, guys. Like, Sinners came out and it was a huge hit. It's a Warner Brothers film. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know how to make good films. They know how to market films too. And Superman only had $100 million marketing budget, which is way less than what Batman versus Superman had. Batman versus Superman probably had close to like $300 million as far as marketing went. That film was everywhere. I just talked to somebody today. They had no idea the Superman movie was in theaters. They never seen a trailer yet for it. And I'm like, wait, what? And it's just because they're not on that pocket of the internet that's obsessed with comic book movies. But they're still the type of audience that would see a Superman film. So maybe I'm thinking Warner Brothers went with a lower marketing budget because $100 million isn't huge for a movie like this, Warner Brothers has gone crazy with the marketing budgets for other superhero films that they've done, and they've held back a lot with this one. And maybe that's the reason why it's not huge overseas right now. There could be tons of reasons, but that's what I'm thinking might be the reason. That and the Orange Man, of course. Everybody hates America right now, right? But also, Warner Brothers was holding back with the marketing. Because, there's been some ridiculous claims that Superman costs like $360 million to make, or $400 million. Like, you just got, when you see numbers like that, you just gotta laugh because The people spreading that information have no idea what they're talking about. You spend 350 to $400 million on a movie. That's like making three fucking movies. That's like making the fucking Hobbit trilogy almost. They spent $1 billion to make the Hobbit trilogy. That's three-hour films, and you're saying they spent nearly 400 million to make Superman, a film that's 2 hours long. You know what I'm saying? Like the math's not mathing there. You know what I'm saying? That's enough money to make two films. That's enough money to make two Superman films and probably a small series. So obviously that's not the case. We all know James Gunn is pretty good at holding his budgets down too. So that never made any sense when people were like throwing out those crazy numbers. And a lot of people throwing out those numbers were like the Snyder zealots that just wanted to spew hate towards James Gunn and try to tank the Superman movie. And they will take any chance to tank the Superman movie and make it seem like a flop, make it seem like the film is a disaster, even though it has huge audience, ratings. It has a great critical reception, and it's killing it domestically, no doubt. No doubt, it's killing it domestically. But they'll only focus on international box office. They will not focus on the fact that it is killing it in America. Like, it might make $400 million just in America. That's not off the table. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's probably going to end around $300 million domestically, and probably $200 million internationally, which would put us around the $500 million range. So, if it did make 400 million domestically, now we're in the $600 million range in America, as total box office run, which is what I think they're really hoping for, to get over that $600 million threshold right there. Even though Warner Brothers is like, 500 million is good. I think they'd be more excited if it was over if it was over 600 million there. And if their minds would be blown if by some miracle, Superman just keeps rolling and it just makes 700 million. Like, I think they would be, their minds would be blown if that happened. My mind would be blown if that happened. That's all I want to say for now. The controversy is kind of ridiculous because, I think the fact that the movie is done so well, audience wise and critically, I think that alone gives James Gunn another chance to make another movie. And they already made Supergirl. So they're already invested somewhat, and you got to see where this goes. You know what I'm saying? You already invested a certain amount of money already. You got to see where it goes. You got to give it its chance. I mean, they spent a few $1 billion on the DCEU before they decided to call it quits on that and reboot the universe with this James Gunn Superman. I mean, let's add up all the production budgets for every DCEU movie. We're talking billions of dollars here. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even think they got a complete return on that investment. And that's why they're rebooting, obviously. If they just have a solid start here with Superman, then the next movie can build off that. And if that movie's really good and gets a good, reception, then they can build off of that. It's baby steps right now because that's how damaged the DC film brand is. Everyone thinks the movies are too dark and gritty and they're shit. Well, now you just got a Superman movie that's all about hope and kindness, and it's fucking sunshine the whole goddamn movie. And it's one of the best comic book movies that's ever been made, really. As far as a comic book movie that's like the comic books brought to life, Superman is probably top of the list right now. That's it for now. Just some thoughts in my car. I'll see you guys in the next one. Comment below. Let me know what you think Superman's going to make, box office wise. What do you think it's going to end its theatrical run at? I am saying over 600 million. You can put me down, put me in the books. It's going to make over 600 million. If it hits 700 million, it would be a blessing from the Lord. It would be, you know what I'm saying? And it would shut up a lot of mouths if it hit over 700 million. It's probably going to get over 600 million though, which would be plenty. I just think the way it's rolling right now and the word of mouth, it's not going to have a 60% drop its second weekend, which is what we're going into. They're tracking it to have a 50% or less drop. If this movie has a 40% drop or a 35% drop in its second weekend, that would be pretty historic. We all remember earlier this year, Sinners had an historic 5% drop, which never happens. Usually films are 50% drop their second weekend, minimum, and Sinners crushed that. Not saying that that's going to happen with Superman. But I'm saying if it can get something similar, like not a complete 50% drop, but like a 40% drop, then you could put it in the bank right now. This movie's going to make plenty of money. That's what I'm hoping for. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.